Ladies and gentlemen, I need y'all to lean in real close, because I'm about to tell you something that most men won't ever say out loud. See, everybody thinks the number one thing a man wants is sex. And don't get me wrong, a man loves that. He craves it. But what if I told you that ain't even the top of the list? Men crave respect more deeply than sex. And this is something most people overlook or completely misunderstand. Society has trained us to believe that men are primarily physical beings, that their strongest desire is rooted in the bedroom. But the truth goes much deeper than that. While intimacy is important, what truly anchors a man, what gives him a reason to keep showing up, to keep fighting, to keep loving, is the feeling of being respected. Respect hits a man at his core. It touches the part of him that determines his self-worth, his identity, his pride. You can give a man everything: love, companionship, intimacy. But if he doesn't feel respected, none of it will satisfy him. It will feel empty. It won't connect. A man might tolerate disrespect for a while, but it eats away at his confidence and sense of purpose. When a man is respected, he stands taller. He walks into a room differently. He speaks with more certainty. He becomes more committed, more protective, more present. Respect feeds his inner strength. It affirms him. It tells him that who he is and what he does matters. A man doesn't just want to be wanted. He wants to be honored. And honor doesn't come from physical affection. It comes from being listened to, trusted, and looked up to in his own household. It comes from knowing that the woman he loves sees the greatness in him, even when the rest of the world doesn't. That kind of respect can't be faked, and a man knows the difference instantly. There's a reason why some men chase the approval of people outside their home, because they feel like they're not getting it where it matters most. When a man feels small in his own house, when his efforts are dismissed or belittled, when his mistakes are magnified more than his sacrifices, he begins to shut down. He becomes quiet. He withdraws. And sometimes he walks away, not because he stopped caring, but because he stopped feeling seen. Respect isn't about praising a man blindly or treating him like he can do no wrong. It's about acknowledging his effort, giving him room to lead, and appreciating what he brings to the table, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. A man will choose a woman who respects him over a woman who simply desires him. Respect makes a man feel safe. It allows him to open up, to be vulnerable, to be real. It breaks down his walls. When a man is respected, he doesn't have to prove himself constantly. He knows he is already enough. That's a power greater than physical intimacy. It's the emotional glue that keeps him locked in, loyal, and driven to give his best. A man's true need is to feel valued and honored. This goes beyond being loved in the romantic or emotional sense. It's about recognition, a deep internal assurance that who he is and what he does matters. From a young age, men are wired to pursue purpose, to carry responsibility, and to stand in a role of protector or provider. But all of that effort needs fuel, and that fuel is honor. When a man is honored, he doesn't just feel wanted, he feels essential. That feeling transforms his behavior, his mindset, and his commitment to the relationship. He begins to rise into the role he's trying to fill, not because he's being pushed, but because he's being lifted. Men may not always be able to express this need with words, but it shows in their actions. They seek out spaces where they feel useful, respected, and appreciated. If he gets that feeling from his partner, his loyalty becomes unshakable. But if he's constantly made to feel small, if his voice isn't heard, if his sacrifices are ignored, then even the strongest man will eventually break down emotionally. This need to feel valued is not about ego or pride. It's about identity. A man's confidence grows in the soil of appreciation. When he knows he's needed and respected, it drives him to be more, give more, and build more. In the relationship dynamic, women are often taught to look for a man who will love them, protect them, and provide. And that's fair. But what's often left out is how crucial it is to also give that man a sense of worth in return. Words like, thank you, I'm proud of you, and I trust you carry weight that's hard to describe. They don't just make a man smile, they make him stand taller, breathe deeper, and love harder. That's how powerful value and honor are to him. They give him identity. They tell him he is more than a paycheck, more than his mistakes, more than what the world labels him as. In a world where men are constantly judged by what they have, how strong they are, or how much they can provide, having a woman who sees beyond all that and still believes in his worth is everything. It gives him a safe space to be human, It allows him to be soft without shame. That space, that feeling becomes sacred to him. He won't want to lose it. He'll protect it with everything he's got. Because once a man feels truly valued and honored, he no longer questions his place in her life. He knows he belongs. He knows he's more than tolerated. He's treasured. And in that knowledge, he finds strength, peace, and purpose. Respect fuels a man's drive, confidence, and loyalty. It's the unseen energy behind how he moves through life, how he handles pressure, how he shows up for the people he loves. When a man feels respected, something in him ignites. He becomes more focused, more intentional, more grounded. His confidence isn't based on arrogance, but on knowing that someone truly sees his worth and believes in his potential. That kind of respect gives him permission to be bold, to take risks, and to pursue goals that scare him. It tells him that even if the world doubts him, there's one person who doesn't. And that's often all he needs to keep pushing forward. Drive in a man doesn't come from being nagged or pressured. It comes from being inspired. And nothing inspires a man more than a woman who respects him deeply. Respect looks like encouragement, like trusting him with decisions, like not questioning every move he makes when he's trying to lead with good intentions. It doesn't mean ignoring his flaws. It means allowing space for growth without constant criticism. When a man feels like he's constantly being picked apart or second-guessed, he slowly starts to pull back. His motivation fades, his energy dies down. But when he's treated with respect, his natural instinct to provide, to protect, to lead kicks into overdrive confidence. For most men, is not something they're born with. It's built brick by brick. And every word of respect from the woman in his life becomes one of those bricks. The way she looks at him, the way she speaks to him in front of others, the way she backs him up when he's trying to figure things out, all of it either adds to or subtracts from his self-worth. A respected man walks differently. He doesn't have to dominate anyone to feel strong. He doesn't have to prove anything. His power comes from knowing that he's appreciated just as he is, and yet still believed in for what he's becoming. Loyalty in a man is not driven by fear or obligation. It's driven by emotional connection. And respect is what makes that connection deep and lasting. When a man feels respected, he locks in emotionally. He becomes protective of the relationship. He becomes more open, more transparent, more invested. He sees the relationship not just as a place of love, but as a place of peace. A respected man doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay, grow, and build, because he knows what he has isn't just romance. It's stability. And in that stability, he finds his best self-respect has the power to heal what life has broken in a man. It gives him a safe place to rest, and at the same time, a reason to keep going. It strengthens his resilience and softens his defenses. It reminds him of who he is and who he's capable of becoming. It doesn't just boost his ego. It feeds his spirit. Most women are not taught how vital their words are to a man's spirit. From a young age, girls are often guided to seek love, affection, and protection, but very few are shown how to speak life into a man's heart. They are told to look for a man who can provide, who is strong, who takes charge, but they are rarely told how to nurture that strength once they find it. Many don't realize that the way they speak, the way they correct, the way they respond in moments of frustration can either lift a man higher or slowly tear him down. Men may look strong on the outside, but they are more emotionally fragile than they let on, especially when it comes to the women they care about. A man may face battles outside the home all day long. Pressure at work, criticism from society, expectations he can't always meet. But what shapes him the most is the voice he hears at home. When that voice is harsh, dismissive, or belittling, it cuts deeper than any outside rejection ever could. On the other hand, when that voice is kind, respectful, and uplifting, it becomes his greatest source of strength. That's the kind of power a woman holds, often without realizing it. Her words are not just words. They are tools of either construction or destruction. Women are often taught how to communicate their needs and emotions, which is important, but they are not always shown how to be emotionally safe for a man. This doesn't mean hiding the truth or avoiding conflict. It means learning how to express things in a way that still honors him as a man. Criticism is easy. Correction with care is a skill. Some women speak out of hurt or frustration, not knowing that in those moments, a man doesn't just hear the message. He feels it deeply in his identity. He begins to question whether he's good enough, whether he's respected, whether he's appreciated at all. Many arguments and emotional distance in relationships stem not from what is said, but how it is said. A simple shift in tone, timing, and intention can make the difference between building a deeper connection or creating a wall between two people. When a woman understands this, she becomes more powerful than she knows. Her voice becomes a sanctuary for the man she loves, a place where he feels understood, respected, and encouraged to grow. Women don't need to become less to uplift a man. They just need to become more aware. Their words can be the very thing that reminds a man who he is in the moments when he forgets. They can give him courage when he's doubting himself. They can calm his storm when he's fighting battles the world doesn't see. When women begin to see their words as emotional lifelines, the entire relationship shifts. A man doesn't need perfection. He needs presence, patience, and the power of respectful communication. Disrespect at home can emotionally shut a man down. A man can deal with challenges at work, pressure from society, and even conflict with friends. But when the one place he's supposed to feel safe becomes a battleground of criticism or indifference, it begins to wear down his spirit. Home is meant to be his refuge, his recharge zone, the place where he can lay his burdens down. But when that space becomes filled with negativity, doubt, and disrespect, it no longer feels like home. It feels like another battlefield. And eventually, the man stops fighting altogether. Most men won't say it out loud, but they carry a deep emotional need to be affirmed by the woman they love. They want to be seen, not just for what they provide, but for who they are. When they feel like nothing they do is good enough, when they're constantly reminded of their failures or shortcomings, they begin to withdraw. That withdrawal doesn't always look like silence. Sometimes it looks like working late, staying out longer, or emotionally disconnecting even when they're physically present. It's not because they don't care. It's because they no longer feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Men are taught to be tough, to hold it all together, to not show weakness. But behind that toughness is a heart that can only take so much. Disrespect doesn't have to be loud or dramatic to be damaging. It can be in the tone of voice, the rolling of eyes, the public correction, or the constant comparison to other men. These subtle signals pile up over time until the man starts to feel like a stranger in his own relationship. He doesn't recognize the love anymore. And worse, he doesn't recognize himself. When a man shuts down emotionally, it's often because he's reached a point where expressing himself no longer feels worth it. He feels unheard, unappreciated, and unseen. He stops sharing his thoughts, his fears, his dreams. He stops bringing energy into the relationship because every time he tries, he's met with resistance or disregard. That emotional shutdown is a defense mechanism, not to hurt the woman, but to protect himself from being hurt over and over again. The irony is, many women don't even realize it's happening. They think he's being distant or cold, when in reality, he's just exhausted from feeling like he has to defend his value in a place where he should be able to relax. Respect isn't about always agreeing or never having conflict. It's about how conflict is handled. It's about creating an environment where even hard conversations are built on a foundation of love and understanding. When that foundation is cracked by constant disrespect, the emotional connection begins to crumble. And once a man no longer feels emotionally connected, everything else in the relationship begins to suffer. Communication, intimacy, and trust all start to fade as he emotionally checks out one moment at a time. Respectful love empowers a man to lead and protect. A man doesn't just want to love. He wants to be useful, strong, needed in a way that speaks to his natural role as a builder and a guard. But he can't fully operate in that role when he's constantly questioned, challenged unnecessarily, or made to feel like he's never enough. When a woman gives love wrapped in respect, it breathes life into a man's sense of responsibility and direction. He begins to lean into his purpose more boldly because he feels supported, not stifled. He feels trusted, not tested. When a woman shows that she trusts his judgment, even when they may not agree on every detail, it sends a message far greater than any compliment. It says, "I believe in your ability to take care of us." That kind of belief builds a man from the inside. It gives him the strength to take risks, to rise to challenges, to push past fear. A man who is respected at home becomes courageous outside of it. He becomes a visionary, a problem solver, a decision maker, not out of ego, but out of duty to those he loves. A man can't fully lead if he feels like he's being led. If every move he makes is countered, if his ideas are always second-guessed, if his efforts are met with sarcasm or indifference, he begins to shrink. He starts to operate from a place of survival, not strength. He stops trying to lead and instead begins to avoid conflict by doing less. Respectful love doesn't mean silence or blind obedience. It means balance. It means being able to voice concern without attacking his manhood. It means offering perspective without stripping him of authority. Protection isn't always about physical safety. It's about emotional covering, spiritual guidance, and long-term vision. A respected man doesn't just think about today, he plans for the future. He starts to build, save, invest, and strategize. He takes pride in protecting what he's building with his woman because he feels like they're on the same team. That feeling of partnership, rooted in respect, makes him want to be better. He starts to study her, listen to her, understand her needs, and meet them with intention. Many women want a man who leads with wisdom and protects with strength, but few realize how much their words, tone, and trust unlock that version of the man. When a man feels like his leadership is appreciated, he becomes more careful with it. He listens more. He thinks deeper. He becomes more emotionally available because he doesn't feel like he has to fight for his place. He's not operating out of defense. He's operating out of purpose. He feels empowered to show up fully, love harder, protect stronger, and lead with integrity. That energy transforms relationships, creating a bond that can weather storms, overcome setbacks, and grow stronger over time. Respectful love doesn't just support a man. It activates the best version of him. When a woman speaks life into a man, he becomes unstoppable. There's a power in a woman's words that many people underestimate, especially when it comes to how they affect the heart and mind of a man. Men are often taught to hide their emotions, to carry pressure in silence, to never show weakness. But even the strongest man has moments where he questions himself, where the weight of responsibility feels too heavy, where he silently wonders if he's enough. In those moments, what a woman says and how she says it can either be the anchor that holds him steady or the wind that helps him soar. Speaking life into a man doesn't mean lying to him or inflating his ego. It means choosing words that affirm, uplift, and remind him of who he is when the world tries to make him forget. It's in the, I believe in you, even when he's unsure of the path. It's in the, I see how hard you're trying, when his efforts seem to go unnoticed. It's in the, you've got this, when everything in him feels like giving up. Those aren't just nice phrases. They are lifelines to a man's inner strength. They pull him back when he drifts and push him forward when he hesitates. A man who is constantly fed doubt, criticism, or emotional coldness becomes hesitant, unsure, and emotionally closed. But a man who is consistently spoken to with kindness, encouragement, and respect becomes bolder, more open, and more driven. He starts to take on challenges with confidence because he knows he's not alone. He begins to dream bigger, fight harder, and love deeper because he feels emotionally full. Words have a way of watering a man's soul, and when they come from the woman he loves, they carry even more weight. When a woman chooses to speak life instead of tearing down, she becomes the safe place a man never wants to leave. That safety makes him trust her, not just with his heart, but with his fears, his failures, his hopes, and his vision. He stops looking for validation elsewhere because he already feels like a king beside her. That emotional support turns into fuel. Fuel that pushes him to lead with strength, to protect with passion, and to love without reservation. It becomes the invisible armor he wears every day when he steps out into a world that often doesn't care about his struggle. It doesn't take much to speak life, but it does take awareness. It means being intentional with how you communicate, especially in moments of conflict or disappointment. It means holding back destructive words and choosing to speak from a place of patience and love. When that becomes the norm in a relationship, a man doesn't just feel supported. He feels unstoppable. He feels like no matter what happens outside, he has someone in his corner rooting for him, building with him, and believing in the greatness he sometimes forgets he carries.